In this Offshore Trust Accounts video, Ryan explains both what you need to know about jurisdictions as well as control issues.
My name is Ryan Fowler. A little bit about myself. I'm an asset protection, estate planning, and global investing consultant. I have a nationwide clientele. The net worth ranges from about $200,000 to over $100 million. I'm the author or co-author of 2 books on asset protection. The latest is Asset Protection in Financially Unsafe Times, co-authored with Dr. Arnold Goldstein. It's the best rated and one of the best-selling books of its type on Amazon.com. So let's talk about the best jurisdictions. Well, the jurisdiction with the best track record is the Cook Islands. It has a record of twice telling a U.S. federal court to take a hike when that court was trying to seize assets on behalf of a creditor. No other jurisdiction has that track record. There's a couple jurisdictions that have actually kind of bowed to U.S. court's demand, one being the Isle of Man. So definitely stay away from the Isle of Man. Some other jurisdictions, though, are Nevis, which their Trust Act is modeled after the Cook Islands Act. The Cayman Islands is pretty good too. Belize is not horrible, but their law actually is too anti-creditor and too in your face, to the point where it'd probably just make a U.S. judge mad. It's so anti-creditor. Panama, there can sometimes be a language barrier there. Western Samoa, not bad, but again, their trust statutes are not nearly as well developed as the Cook Islands. And you know, again, you have the problem with Panama, and some people there speak English, some don't that well, and that's been a problem based on my experience, so I stay away from Panama. So control issues, don't retain too much control. I have another video about offshore trusts. It shows an offshore trust court case that failed and one that succeeded. And the issue is, if you're a co-trustee, you're a protector, you retain too much control, or if you set up the trust right before you get sued and you know you're going to get sued, that can cause a big problem too. That was the problem with people called the Andersons. They were actually incarcerated for 6 months because of that. So don't do that. That's a no-no. Keep everything offshore if you can. There are some exceptions to the rule, which we'll discuss right now. While the seas are calm, you can keep assets onshore if you do it right. What I like to do is you can have a foreign trading account that buys U.S. stocks and bonds. That's one way to go. And you can have U.S.-based investments, stocks, bonds, real estate owned by domestic or sometimes offshore limited liability companies or limited partnerships. And under U.S. law, those entities will actually protect those assets from creditors if someone sues you personally. The reason we go offshore is a judge can always decide to disregard that, the limited liability that LLCs and limited partnerships normally give you, and try and get those assets anyway. So if you're in a really big emergency scenario, you have this offshore trust own almost all of the LLCs or LPs that own your U.S.-based assets. And in a worst case scenario, it'll liquidate and move those offshore. If it can't move the real estate offshore, then, for example, if it's rental properties, then rent checks will just go to an offshore bank account. So that money is outside creditors' hands, or it liquidates the U.S.-based stocks and bonds and physically moves it offshore. You only have to do that when, you know, in a worst case scenario. And in the meantime, you're usually okay doing things this way, although the absolute best case scenario is just to have it offshore from the start. But this is still very strong. Also, you can control the LLCs and LP limited partnerships, which means you have control unless you're in an emergency situation. And of course, that way you don't have to give too much control to the trustees while the seas are calm. So if you've liked this video, I've got a copy of my book, Asset Protection in Financially Unsafe Times, as an ebook, a 20-minute no-cost consultation, and a series of asset protection secrets ready to be sent right to your email inbox. All this is free. Just visit www.assetprotectionoffer.com. Thanks.